Hello, my name is Dr. Joyce Gomez, and I'm an associate professor in the Department of Literacy and Reading Education at California State University, Fullerton. Today, I have the privilege of chatting with you about early writing. Specifically, we're going to be talking about strategies we can utilize to support young authors, particularly grades pre-K to about second grade. So we're working toward some of the following learning goals today. The first is to consider the relationship between reading and writing. Second, to examine the stages of writing. And third, to explore approaches to fostering early writing among our young learners. So I want to begin by talking about some of the work that comes from some text provided by DeWitt and colleagues, specifically commenting on the work of Shanahan in regards to the reading-writing connection. So Shanahan explains that the reading-writing connection is bidirectional. So in this way, the process is reciprocal. So although reading and writing are independent processes, they're reciprocal in that they are interconnected and feed into one another, influence one another, and can reinforce and build upon one another. So, in this sense, the importance of giving students opportunities to produce knowledge through their writing and ideas and to allow them to share that with others is an integral part of their learning, specifically in literacy and reading, broadly speaking, but also that reading that they're engaged in is also informing their writing as they're engaged in books or reading their peers' writing. It's an opportunity for them to either see that modeled or for them to engage in critically evaluating text and sharing their opinion about it. So both are really, really important interconnected elements of the reading literacy process. So when we think about the impact of systematic reading instruction on writing, this can impact the overall writing quality, again, through seeing what good text and good writing looks like. It can also expand vocabulary. It can influence spelling, offers insight to text organization, really just increases a student's ability to broaden their understandings of what writing can look like, even just exploring different genres of writing. And when we think about the impact of systematic writing instruction on reading, it can really influence comprehension through response to reading strategies such as reflections or note taking, summaries, question answering, or even question generating. So the writing process really does allow students to engage with text in a much more active way, whether they're writing about fictional texts or even non-fictional texts in a variety of content areas. DeWitt and colleagues also talk or speak to the reading writing classroom and some of the fundamental elements within this reading writing space. So these include positive reading writing environments, fostering an intellectual climate, and physical space for reading and writing. So let's talk about these a little bit more. When we think about a positive environment, um, we think about writing as a really affirming students' voice. So students understand that they write for a purpose or for multiple purposes, right? They can be sharing different viewpoints or insights. Writing can serve a variety of functions from poetry to letters to developing an argument. Writing artifacts are also valued in this space and it's part of the classroom community. So whether that's allowing students to have a specific celebratory space, such as the author's chair, or having their work celebrated by being posted throughout the classroom, these are different ways in which their ideas are affirmed. And also writing can serve as a way to engage in communication and develop our learning. So it's a way for the students engage in dialogue with one another, with their teacher, and with community members as well. We also need to think about fostering an intellectual climate, really affirming that we are all readers and writers. So here is where we're really mindful about self-efficacy, considering how students view writing, how they view themselves as writers, really making sure that we're illuminating their strengths in the area of writing and supporting them in co-constructing goals for writing and celebrating all the milestones they reach in writing and really allowing them to feel proud and empowered through the writing process. So this does involve a risk-taking atmosphere where they're not afraid to engage in this learning and where it's a safe space for them to make mistakes which allow them to grow and to learn. So a safe space to share their writing, a safe space to display their writing, where we're celebrating and we're introducing one another to our ideas and perspectives as opposed to pinpointing errors or spelling mistakes and things of that nature. So the teacher also can play an active role in modeling this writing process, showcasing mistakes, showcasing confidence, showcasing that celebratory nature, and really allowing ourselves to showcase and be proud of the work that we produce. And we also want to consider the physical environment we're establishing for this to take place. So we want to have the sense that this classroom is a great place to read and write. So that means that there's time to write, there's a place to write, and there's materials for writing. So this can include having predictable routines, times for sharing, having centers or classroom library, and having materials readily available for students to write, ranging from technology or digital devices to dictionaries or thesaurus, paper, pencil, and a multitude of other resources as well. So recognizing that writing can take place in different ways and in different modes. So here's just an example of what a writing center might look like. Your writing centers can include a station for generating shopping lists. You can share store catalogs or other materials to help them construct a shopping list for a birthday wish list or a grocery shopping list. A station for publishing where they can create books or write stories. A space for observations where they can note their observations on a clipboard or a checklist. A space where they can practice writing their name using stencils or other materials, or developing a menu from their favorite restaurant using brochure, or developing a brochure using different types of paper. So there are a variety of ways that we kind of set the stage for fostering a space for successful learning and growth in writing. I also want to speak to a report that came from the National Center for Education Evaluation and Regional Assistance through the Institute of Education Science. In this text, the authors note that they believe that students who develop strong writing skills at an early age acquire a valuable tool for learning, communication, and self-expression. And what they do in this report is they draw from different studies and speak to the different ways in which specific recommendations can serve or inform our thinking in developing effective spaces for writing in classrooms. And so they specifically talk about 4 recommendations to increase writing development. So the first recommendation that they present is to provide daily time for students to write. So while they note that there should be at minimum an hour of explicit writing time per day, which should include about 30 minutes of explicitly teaching writing strategies in the context of a first grade classroom. So this, of course, would increase over, depending on the student's grade, or as the student continues throughout the sequence of older grades. We can certainly also include more time for writing by integrating writing in a very intentional way into our instruction across various content areas. So this means that writing can serve really as a vehicle for meaning making in science, in math, in social studies, really create an opportunity for students to unpack their thinking in these various content areas, be it through a response journal or note-taking on a graphic organizer, or through dialogue journals that they exchange or share with their peers. So there are a variety of contexts in which writing can enhance students' meaning making, essentially, throughout the school day. So importantly, these writing opportunities should also encompass and affirm the engagement of writing in multiple languages. So students should be able to share their thoughts and ideas in their home languages and as well as English. Should also affirm diverse forms of writing and expression, including the use of drawings and illustrations, which is really critical for these early stages of writing. So children's drawings in particular are really important to early writing because, again, we understand that writing essentially is a form of meaning making and discourse. So students can learn very early on that their illustrations or drawings are, again, a way to create these symbols that represent thoughts and ideas and perspectives. So we want to provide students with models of this, opportunities to engage in this work. We want to provide them with the tools to be able to do so, and the encouragement to continue drawing and to continue to speak to their drawings as really launching as a way to launch their development into a more and more formal and ongoing developing modes of writing. So children will begin to add writing to their drawings spontaneously. So we will see this over time. So we really do want to affirm and celebrate their use of drawings and illustrations early in the process. So we want to encourage students to draw and to talk, to write, and to share all of these work together to really work toward the same goal, which is to empower students to engage in the writing process and to express their ideas through really confident modes of expression. We want them to feel like flexible writers who can develop more complex text through more traditional restrictive approaches. We want them to really be able to feel empowered to express their ideas in a variety of ways in a very safe space. So as I mentioned earlier, this of course includes affirming the linguistic diversity in a writer's workshop or a writing classroom, largely speaking. So Hartman and Machado argue that students with minoritized language practices have the same right to their language as their native English-speaking peers. So when we think about the historical oppression and marginalization of AAL and other minoritized language practices, the traditional historical policing around language, positioning or framing specific forms of language as incorrect, or unacceptable in schools, really inhibits students' self-expression. It fosters a reluctance or shame around their language practices and knowledge. And so we really want to dismantle those systems and really work to shape instructional patterns that affirm students' languages in the classroom, making them visible and positioning them as valuable. In this way, we can further deepen their language dexterity and really set them up for success in exploring the diverse ways in which writing can allow us to expand our thinking and to enhance our discourse with one another. The report that we're speaking to today also shares a second recommendation, and this is to teach students to use the writing process for a variety of purposes. So in this way, also writing can serve as a form of empowerment, recognizing that our words matter and our words can lead to change. And this can take place in a variety of ways and formats. So beyond like responding to a prompt through a narrative or five paragraph essay, we can use writing to serve diverse goals and to serve some of our ambitions and through a variety of genres. So we can do so by being very intentional in as we develop different writing experiences in our classrooms and in our curriculum. In addition, we want to also explicitly teach the writing process, in that it will outline for students the ways in which our writing continues to develop and our strengths as writers continue to develop as well. So, for instance, helping students understand that writing is also a form of connecting. As we see here, where this child is writing their letter to the tooth fairy. So writing can be very personal. Writing also entails a journey. So outlining the steps to this journey can be very powerful, and can offer students specific tools that they can utilize to be successful writers as well. So outlining for them the stages of drafting, receiving peer feedback, allowing that feedback to inform their own learning as they revise drafts, edit drafts, and then engaging in the celebratory nature of publishing. All of these stages are really an integral part of the writing process. So unpacking these and teaching them in a very explicit way can offer students the tools they need to continually engage in their own ownership of their writing. So it's also important to have an understanding of the stages of early writing as students, as we offer students the support that they need to move forward and to grow, and as we think about how to develop appropriate scaffolds. So early stages of writing can begin with writing via drawing or scribbling, which can also continue to develop into letter-like forms, followed by reproducing well-learned units or letters of strings, and then followed by intentional transitional writing, and finally conventional, or what we see as conventional or traditional writing. So emergent writers or emergent writing consists of this graphic representation on paper that again is communicating meaning. So this can include scribbling or lines, a partial formation of letters. So we could see students who are starting to learn their letters, we can see some of those shapes start to take place, which is often really just a series of circles and lines as we, as we think about the formation of the different letters of the English alphabet. But this can also include numbers or other symbols, as students continue to, again, kind of reproduce maybe what they see in text as they engage with picture books and other forms of text. You might start to see spacing. So we'll see like clusters of letters followed by spaces. So you can see them start to reproduce some of these patterns. We might see them produce these patterns in the left to right, up and down format in the context of like an English or English speaking American classroom. And you might also see them start to over time develop or write words that they do know or recognize, or even their own names. So here we can see kind of the typical common, although there's always exceptions, but development of some of these stages. So we can see some examples of drawings followed by scribbling. Here you can see kind of that mock handwriting. So we're starting to see the pattern of lines or text. Here we could see some of those early formations of letters. They become a little bit more refined over time, and you can start to see that develop. Here are also some examples of what that might look like over time. So this can begin really as soon as the students our children are a couple months old. You could start to see scribbling with crayons or markers or other tools. But that can continue over time. We might continue to see even like more sophisticated shapes, or you can see stick figures where there's a really clear like circle for a head or eyes and legs and arms. Scribbling and drawing also can continue to develop, and really as students develop more of those fine motor skills and can control their pencil or their crayons a bit more, you'll see more detail in some of those illustrations as shown here. Here you can also see examples of some of those letter-like forms where you can see a few letters pieced together, and those develop over time as we see here. Here we can see invented or transitional writing, where you see the student has put together a couple clusters of letters that we can already begin to decode, such as the word crane, coupled with this picture of a crane lifting the roof off of a house. We could see house produced by the HS here. We start to see some examples of spacing in between the letters, and we could see the child's name written at the bottom of the paper as well. And here we could see the child Toby has continued to engage in that development, and we see more conventional traditional writing here. So we'll go ahead and see a couple examples and see if we're able to apply some of these stages to the artifacts we see here. So what stage of writing do you see represented in this sample, and how do you know? I'll go ahead and give you a moment. So here we can see reproducing well-learned units as well as letter strings. We can see part of the student's name as well as a couple other clusters of letters and numbers. So think about how you would help a child who is at this stage continue to develop and to grow into the next stage of writing. Okay, I have another example here. What stage of writing do you see represented here in this sample? Okay, here we see more conventional or traditional writing. We see the child has written the date, and you could see more clearly developed sentences such as "my favorite food is sandwiches." We see proper use of capitalization and punctuation. but also think about the ways we would continue to support the student in further developing their writing. So when we think about this area of diversification and exploring the different ways or purposes that writing can serve, we can also think about genre approaches to writing, where we're introducing students to the different types of writing that exist and how they serve particular functions or help us work towards specific goals. So in addition to opportunities to write like a traditional narrative, we can encourage them to write fictional pieces, biographies, autobiographies, reports, letters, poetry. The list can certainly continue. Here's some examples of poetry we can invite students to engage in, either through developing poems that speak to the letters in their names, to I am poems. And also, when we think about developing intentional spaces for writing throughout the school day, considering how writing can serve as a vehicle for learning, or as DeWitt and colleagues describe it as thinking on paper. So whether that's note-taking opportunities, quick writes, summaries, or journals, semantic mapping, all of these approaches can allow students to also think about how writing can serve as a vehicle for their own thinking and meaning making, particularly as they engage with new content. Then the third recommendation that came out of this report was to teach students to become fluent with handwriting, spelling, sentence construction, typing, word processing, all of these tools that will further empower students to engage in this writing process. So here you just see a quick snapshot of one of the multiple tables that are provided in this report, which are welcome to explore. Here specifically, we see certain activities that can be used to further enhance students' development of sentence framing or expanding or combining. You can find specific examples of what this might look like or how you might develop this into specific activities. The main takeaway here is that we want to provide explicit, intentional instruction to help students further develop these areas. And so this certainly begins in the early stages of writing too by fostering pre-writing. So this can begin with helping students develop those fine motor skills as they are again expressing their ideas and their thinking, or even just their knowledge of letter names and sounds. So allowing them to practice holding pencils, crayons, and other writing tools, as well as using scissors, reading in responses. So there's so many different ways that we can further develop these tactile experiences through Play-Doh, through paint, through shaving cream. There's so many different ways that we can just encourage children to develop those fine motor skills as well as knowledge of writing and expression. We also want to think about teaching the process and the skills of writing. Graphic organizers can be a great way to help students organize their ideas and even introduce them to the development of sentences and ways to expand their sentences. A tree map, for instance, can be used as the quote branches to help students prepare sentences. As we can see here, if a teacher has helped students brainstorm their knowledge of, as in this case, we see the example of a turtle, maybe through the use of reading different nonfiction texts together, watching videos about turtles, and then brainstorming what they see as traits of the turtle, abilities that the turtle has, like physical attributes or characteristics of the turtle. They can all be listed here and can be used for the students to develop or construct specific sentences. Let's go ahead and look at an example of what this could look like. Olivia, can you read what you have so far? You used your tree
Okay,
map.
cockatoos are birds. They have tails.
Awesome. Okay, now let's include a transition word
Okay.
over here.
Okay.
Also, we have, okay, that's missing between day and half.
Finger spacing.
Finger space, yeah.
Okay. No. Wrong.
They can
Dance.
dance. Oh, awesome.
Okay, now can I draw?
So in this example, we saw that the child was able to draw from the tree map to construct various and multiple sentences about the featured topic. And of course, the excitement to couple that with some illustrations. Here are some just quick examples of additional graphic organizers that also can be used to help students kind of map out their thinking and help them start to develop their writing pieces. Sentence charts can also be used to help students expand their sentences when they're ready. So here you can see the students or class have brainstormed different adjectives, nouns, adverbs, verbs, and prepositional phrases. And they can draw from some of these examples. It could be on a sentence chart to develop some silly sentences to the tune of The Farmer in the Dell. And as always, our work in fostering writing or reading begins with assessment, in that it allows us to have a better understanding of specific areas of strength and need for all of our learners. So in this way, we're really able to celebrate and affirm the strengths that students have in a particular area, and to use that to develop very specific scaffolds to help them make progress in other areas that we know we want to target or further develop. So in this way, assessment is that process of self-evaluation that allows us to have really meaningful conferences with students as we co-construct plans. And the fourth recommendation coming out of this report is to create an engaged community of writers. So this involves creating opportunities for students to share their writing, also offering them choices in their writing, including topics or genres, encouraging collaboration and dialogue, opportunities for students to provide and receive feedback, and to engage in the publishing process, and to understand that these writing communities can certainly include stakeholders or participants beyond the beyond the four walls rather of a classroom. So Writers Workshop is one space that can serve as a collaborative environment for writing. It often entails a mini lesson, or begins with a mini lesson that allows the teacher to offer some more explicit instruction in a particular area of writing. This can be a target or focus that's woven throughout the workshop process, but it's also based on specific analysis of some of the assessments. So if the teacher sees students are having difficulty with brainstorming or topic sentences, that could be the focal area of that mini lesson. It also includes the writer's workshop also includes inviting students to engage in these different stages of writing, ranging from pre-writing to evaluating and publishing. There's time for writing, which involves conferencing with the teacher to get specific feedback on your particular writing, so a student or students' particular writing, and also time to share. So in this way, students are receiving feedback and support and encouragement from multiple folks, including the teacher as well as peers. Can also promote community by making writing part of your routine, you're part of your community building uh, vehicles. So morning message is a way to kind of uh, introduce students or to allow students to kind of launch their day through communal writing, as we see here. Authentic writing opportunities are also very important for this. These can include class mailboxes, gluing objects to names, mailbox systems. We see some examples of those listed here. These are some of the authentic ways in which writing serves our daily thinking and engagement. So, reproducing some of these in fun ways can not only enhance fun and engagement, but a firm understanding of why reading is why reading and writing are important and how they serve our thinking and learning throughout the day, again, beyond the four walls of the classroom. So, in conclusion, we want to be very intentional in creating spaces that allow our students to express themselves, to understand the purpose of writing and the joys of writing, that allow them to engage in communication and dialogue with one another, to share their perspectives and to learn of the perspectives of others, to shape their own thinking and ideas, and to essentially develop that meaning making and learning and growth. I thank you so much for listening. I have my Instagram handle here in case there are any questions I can answer. I thank you for participating and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Bye bye.